Okay, everyone, hello. Thank you so much for attending this evening's webinar. My name is Andrea Clements. I am the Scholarship and Business Process Manager here at the Findlay-Hancock County Community Foundation. And our Communications Director, Jenna Freed, is also present for the webinar. Jenna is going to be moderating the question and answer portion for this evening. So just a couple of housekeeping items before we get into the scholarship application. Like I said, we are going to be using the question and answer function in today's session. So all of you are muted, but if you do have a question, go ahead and put it in the Q&A down at the bottom, and everybody that is participating in this webinar will be able to see your question. Jenna will be answering some of those questions right in that question and answer area. And then she'll be passing some of those questions on to me at different points when I take a break from the training, and we'll make sure we get all of your questions answered. We, like I said, are going to be using Zoom as the platform, as you guys can tell, and this webinar is being recorded. So the link to the recorded webinar is actually going to be on our scholarship resources page on our website after this evening. Those of you who are on the webinar, and then those of you who signed up via email, but maybe aren't on in this moment, will also get an email that will have a link to be able to watch this at a later time as well. So just a little bit about our scholarships before we jump into the application itself. Excuse me. The Community Foundation administers approximately 140 scholarship funds. Most of those scholarships are awarded to students that are living in Hancock County. Our scholarships touch all areas of study. That includes trades, 2-year and 4-year undergraduate studies. We also have several scholarships for master's and graduate level students as well. And we have some for current college students as well. So we touch all different types of scholarships. All ages are represented in our scholarships, like I said, including graduating seniors, current college students, adults who are going back to school after a break or maybe are getting a graduate degree. And you will find that our scholarships have a range of academic requirements as well. So some have no GPA requirement, and they're more interested in your activities, your work history, that type of thing. Others of our scholarships do have a GPA requirement, and that GPA requirement can range anywhere from 2.0 all the way up to 3.75 and beyond. So there really truly is a scholarship just for you in our funds. One of the things that we are thankful for and proud of is that we have a universal application for our scholarships. And so if you guys have been applying to other scholarships, you know that most scholarships have separate applications. So you're filling out one application for every single separate scholarship. It takes time. It takes organization to submit, keep track of everything that you've applied for. We use a universal application. And so what does that mean? It means that you will fill out basically a 2-step application. Your answers on that one application are going to determine whether or not you qualify for over 140 of our scholarships. So as we go through this application tonight, just keep in the back of your mind that you want to be very thorough as you are answering the questions that we show you tonight and go through, because those questions are basically the keys that unlock the doors to the scholarships that we have available. Our universal application opened yesterday at noon. We already have many submitted and draft scholarship applications. So thank you for those of you who have been in and working already. And once you've submitted the universal application, you've completed the first step of the process. For some scholarships, that's the only step of the process, and you'll automatically see a list of scholarships that you've qualified for. For other scholarships, there may be some additional items that are going to need to be submitted, and we'll get to that kind of towards the end of this evening so that you can see, how do you know once you've submitted the universal application if you have some scholarships that require that step 2 of everything. The universal application does close on February 1st at noon. So go ahead and write that down. You have between now and February 1st at noon to submit your portion of the application and all supplemental materials as well. I do want to let you know that throughout the application portion, you're going to be requesting a transcript. You're going to be requesting some letters of recommendation. Those transcripts and letters of recommendation are actually going to be due on February 15th. So students, your portion is due on February 1st. The transcripts and the letters of recommendation, we give the guidance counselors and the people who are recommending you an additional 2 weeks to get their letters of recommendation and their transcripts in for you. So if you have the capacity this evening, what I would recommend is you could actually watch and listen to this webinar and also start completing some of these steps of registration. Maybe even start your application right along with me. Jenna is actually going to go ahead and put the link, and it looks like she already did. She's going to put that link to our scholarship portal in the chat. So you can go ahead and click that link and you can follow right along and start doing it. So we're going to go ahead and get started here on the application side of everything. What you will notice when you get to our scholarship portal is that you're going to have a login page here. And many of you have not applied for scholarships through the Community Foundation in the past. So most of you are going to use this create new account section. When you do this, there are certain areas that are required. So obviously we're going to go ahead and do those tonight. We do ask your email is going to be your username. If you notice here, we're asking that you please do not use your high school email address. Some of our scholarships are renewable scholarships. And so when you're in college and you need to renew a scholarship and we need to get a hold of you, your high school email is not going to work anymore. So please use an email that you'll be able to access after you're out of high school. And I'm just going to fill this out here so that I can show you. I'm actually going to be pretending to be a student applying to scholarships this evening so you guys can see this whole process. In the live site, I'm working in a site right now that's not live, it's a practice site, but in the live site, you'll notice that under the mobile number, it does say that if you go ahead and give us your mobile number, that is giving us permission to possibly text you with updates about your application. So we are not going to spam you in any way, shape, or form. That is truly for us to be able to send a text message and say, hey, you have some outstanding stuff, or we are missing some letters of recommendation or something like that. So then you're going to go ahead and create a password. We are not going to know your password. You will be the only one that's going to know that password. So go ahead and write that down and make sure that you know where you keep the password, because you will come back in and need to, sorry, let me get rid of that there. You'll come back in at different points to be able to check on status and that type of thing. Once you go ahead and register, just like we did, you'll see this email confirmation. And essentially our system is going to send you an email to the email that you used as your username. And it's going to ask you to go ahead and confirm that you received that email. So once you get to this page, go ahead and check your email and make sure that it's in there so that we know that we're able to communicate with you properly. And then you continue. And it's going to bring you to the home page of our scholarship application site. So I'm going to stop for just a second and see if we have any questions about just the registration portion of everything.
We will wait for just a second. We got one question that came in about how to get to the link to create a profile, which we shared in the chat. It is also on the scholarship page of the website. And I think that's about it. So go ahead and please continue putting questions in the Q&A box, and I will answer them as Andrea continues.
Okay, that's great. So right here, this is what we call your scholarship dashboard. So as an applicant, this is going to be the place that you want to come to fill out your scholarship applications. There's some information here, just some instructions at the top. You see that it kind of calls out some universal application students and information and that type of thing. So this is kind of your homepage where you're going to land on everything. To apply, what you'll do is you'll click the apply button up here. And in this area, I only have one live scholarship that's open right now. And so it's the Findlay-Hancock County Community Foundation Universal Application. That is the one that you're going to want to find. So Findlay-Hancock County Community Foundation Universal Application 2023. And I'm going to hit apply. So once you get into the application itself, you'll see it's going to show you what the due date is. And all fields that are marked with an asterisk are required. The only one that you can see right now is employee board member relationship. So what's going to happen is throughout this application, as you answer questions, more questions might show up. They're going to branch out to other questions. So this first one is just connection to the foundation. Basically, anybody that is an employee, a board member of the community foundation, spouse, sibling, parent, grandparent, child, all of that you can read are not eligible for scholarships. So we're just making sure that you're not related to us in any way. So I'm going to say, no, I am not an employee of the community foundation. And then you'll notice as I scroll, all of these questions have now appeared. So I'm going to go ahead and just start working through these questions and fill out the ones that I'm just going to keep filling them out here. And as I fill them out, I am going to talk through some of it. So it's important as you're filling this information out that you are filling it out accurately and thoroughly. Student classification for purposes of tonight, because many of you are graduating high school seniors, I'm going to choose that. Know that every single question you answer is connected to basically the criteria for certain scholarships. So graduating high school seniors are only going to qualify for certain scholarships. Current college students are going to qualify for different scholarships. This next question I do want to spend some time on. Do you wish to be considered for need-based scholarships? Excuse me. More than 50% of our scholarships take into account financial need. And so basically what that means is that there's a requirement within the scholarship itself that you provide your estimated family contribution number and that you provide your student aid report from your FAFSA. If all of that sounded like words you don't know, we do have a section on our website that talks a little bit about that, but the FAFSA is a federal government student aid application that you fill out. Many colleges are going to need it or want it as well for your financial aid at college. So when you select yes here for need-based scholarships, what that's going to do is later in the application, that's going to open up that section that requires you to upload your student aid report, fill in your EFC score, and there's other financial questions that you're going to need to answer as well. If you answer no, there is not a possibility that you will be considered for any of our financial needs scholarships. For purposes tonight, I'm going to answer yes. Excuse me. Parent or guardian information. We will use this in very few ways, but there are some of our scholarships that do require that we make sure that we know who your parent is and where they work. So for instance, Cooper Tire has a couple of scholarships with us. Legacy Farmer has a scholarship with us. FOP Lodge has a scholarship. And so what we're doing is we're just making sure that we know who your parent is. That way those employers or those clubs and organizations can verify membership or verify employment. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this in real quick. Again, if you're on the site, you can go ahead and start filling some of this out as I'm working on it, and you will have a head start. I'm going to choose no here, that I don't want to add second parent information just because I don't want to make you sit through that. But if you have an additional parent or guardian that you'd like to add information in, go ahead and hit yes there. Another branching question will open up and you'll be able to enter that. Next, we're going to get into high school information. This is very important because this drop-down menu is going to determine very much what scholarships you will be qualifying for. My children actually attend Findlay City Schools, so I'm going to go ahead and choose Findlay City Schools. I do know that many of you are on from Van Buren and Macomb and Arlington. We've seen a lot of different places as well. So high school county, what county is your high school located in? And then what year are you graduating from high school? I'm going to pretend that I am a graduating senior this year. And then we're going to just keep going. What's your cumulative high school GPA? I know that many of you will, the end of your next semester is going to be after January. Your guidance counselors, when they submit your transcript, are going to wait until after the end of that semester, and then they're going to submit transcripts. If you would like to wait to submit your GPA until after that because you think your GPA might be just a smidge higher, that's fine. But if it's going to be relatively the same, put it in and just get your application submitted as soon as possible. I'm going to go ahead and do a 3.5. Test score would be ACT or SAT. You'll notice this is not a required question. Some colleges right now are also not requiring this. I will say, if you have taken the ACT or SAT, please put your score in. And our evaluators do take a look at that when they are assessing academic achievement. And then this is just, do you reside in the district you attend or do you open enroll? I'm just going to choose reside. Excuse me. So now we're to the point where we are requesting our high school transcript. Basically, you need to know what your guidance counselor's email address is. And I have put in here some wording that you can use. You can literally highlight this, copy it, going to put your guidance counselor's email in. For Findlay City School students that are watching and listening, you'll see here that I am asking you to use @findlaycityschools.org, the full address. Everyone, please double check your email address that you put in here before you hit compose. You can compose the email. Transcript request. Paste what you just copied. And send. I'm going to take just a break here and see if there are any questions, and also take a drink of water.
No questions so far. Please don't forget to use the Q&A function. I did drop a couple links into the chat since Andrea has started. The first is a link to the full listing of all the scholarships that you might be able to match to through the universal application for this year. The second is a full list of the information needed to apply for this year. That information needed to apply will include some of those special things, like your guidance counselor's email, your financial information that we talked about, things like that. So please bookmark those sites, download those PDFs, whatever you need to do, and keep those handy as you're applying. Andrea, I think we're ready to continue.
Great. So I've just continued as Jenna was talking there, and I'm just going through and working on some things here. We're talking about sports in this section. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and keep kind of clicking through, and then I'll give some pointers as we get to spots where we need to. As you're going through these areas, please be sure that you're including any sort of leadership positions that you have had, anything like that, so that you're telling the story of yourself to our evaluators through all of these questions. And so we only know what you tell us. So include everything that is important about the activities that you have participated in while you have been in high school.
Andrea, we did have a question come in about dates. So the question is, if scholarships do require additional information, is there a suggested date to get the application done in order to have enough time to get that additional information submitted?
That's a great question. So 30 to 40 of our scholarships require additional information. On average, every student that applies to our universal application is going to qualify for 10 or more scholarships. So what you need to know is that extra information that's required is things like additional essays. That takes time. Letters of recommendation. That takes time to reach out to somebody and to make sure that they are willing to participate and provide that letter of recommendation. I would suggest that you submit this step 1 that we're working on right now, no later than 2 weeks before that February 1st deadline, to give yourself two weeks to just look through and finish those essays and those letters of recommendation requests that you need to do.
Thank you.
Sure, and I will add to that as well. If you submit your application on February 1st, this application that we're working on right now, on February 1st at 11:59 a.m., you will not have time to do step 2. So any of those scholarships that may have had that step 2 requirement, you will not qualify for. So again, I would highly encourage you to submit this step 1 application really as soon as possible, definitely at least 2 weeks ahead of time, and that will give you time to work on the other stuff as well. Most of these answers that I'm putting in here probably make no sense. I'm just trying to get through some of these required questions so that we can get to the next portion here. And it seems a little redundant, some of these questions, but it's really because of these 140 scholarships. There are some very, very specific requirements that our donors want to make sure that the student that qualifies for their scholarship has done. So especially in the sports area, there's a bit of redundancy, but just read the question thoroughly. And then you can go ahead and answer those questions appropriately. This involvements area, basically you'll notice here, would you like to add participation in clubs or extracurricular activities? If you hit yes, it's going to add that next question, and it's going to ask you to add more information. Church activities. If you hit yes, it's going to add the church activities here, and same with volunteering and community service. So I've checked yes to all of those, which basically opened up all of these additional answers. I will say many of our scholarships do have a volunteer community service requirement. So just that's kind of a little tip. If you have some volunteer and community service experience, even if it's just a little, definitely include that. Okay, now we're getting to the financial aid portion of everything. So if you remember at the top of the application, it said, do you wish to be considered for scholarships that take into consideration financial need? I said yes. So what happened is this area of the application opened up. We do have some information in here about the FAFSA. It's really information that's directly from the federal government because it's their form. But there's some links in here and everything like that. It does give you some information on how to download your student aid report from the FAFSA website. And one of the things that is required is we do require you to upload this student aid report. So I'm gonna just, whoop, I guess I need to upload a PDF. So there you go. You need to have it in a PDF file. And we will go ahead and upload a PDF here. Those of you who have filled out your FAFSA already and received your student aid report, you know that there is the estimated family contribution number. That number is what the federal government has said through their algorithm. Your family would be able to contribute on a yearly basis to your student's education. So that is the number that we're looking for here. When our evaluators are looking at those scholarships that financial need is a requirement, they are looking very closely at that EFC number and using that to help determine which student might be awarded that scholarship. If it's a consideration, but maybe not a requirement of the scholarship, then those EFC scores might be just a little bit higher that a student might receive a scholarship. So just kind of know that. I'm going to go ahead and put a 0 in for the EFC. Another thing that we ask in this area, when you say that you do want to be considered for financial need, is some estimated costs of college. So name of your chosen school or your first choice school. If you don't know yet what school you're going to be attending, that's okay. Proceed as though you are accepted to and you are going to your first choice school and fill out the application in that way. Expected annual tuition, room and board, textbooks, and then list any scholarships or grants that you have received to date. An additional question in this area is any family financial assistance. Again, these are only questions if you have chosen to be considered for scholarships that take financial need into consideration. So, are you financing your own education without help from parents or others? Yes, no, partially. I'm going to say partially. And then if you answered no or partially, we want you to answer a couple more questions for us. So I'm going to say that I'm financing 51 to 75% of my college. And the individual or the people that are helping finance the rest are my parents. And then we also provide this section here that allows you to comment a little bit more regarding your financial situation. So if there's any sort of other things that are going on with your family situation that you feel is important for our evaluators to take into consideration, you would put that here. I will pause just for a second, just to see if there's any questions about the financial need portion of everything.
So far, no questions. I will throw in my 2 cents as someone who reviews quite a few scholarships that we as reviewers know that the EFC generated by the FAFSA isn't always the best, most accurate number. So it is really important that if there are certain extenuating circumstances that you include those in that other information section under financial need that Andrea referenced. Yep, right there. that helps give us a better picture of what the situation is, and not just a number that the government has decided based on an algorithm. We know that there's more to the story in most cases.
Thanks, Jenna. That's very true. So we're just going to keep going here. Post-secondary information, what college or university you plan to attend. Literally, you can copy and paste this, put it down here, and then you can say, all right, first choice is BGSU. Second choice is, I'm using abbreviations. Please spell it out when you do it. But third or second choice is OU, and we'll say third choice is University of Cincinnati. Now, have you been accepted to your top choice? Yes, yay for us. We've been accepted to our top choice. Then we're going to go on here and keep answering. Post-secondary, I plan to attend or am attending one of the following colleges. These universities, we have specific scholarships for students who are attending those universities. So if you are attending or planning to attend one of those universities, I would say it would be to your benefit to go ahead and check that. Expected graduation year, post-secondary, so we're talking about college, expected graduation year here, let's say 2027. Indicate which year you're going to be in the upcoming school year. Many of you who are on this call are going to be undergrad freshmen. And then what type of education? This is very important because some of our scholarships are specifically for trade and vocational schools. Some are specifically for 4-year, some are for 2-year, and some are for any of the above. So whatever school you're going to, just check that. What type of degree are you planning to get? And then we have many scholarships that are major specific. So please look through this. And if there is a major that's listed here that matches what you're planning to do or is close, please check that. I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm going to go into education. You see that it says specify below. So I'm going to go ahead and specify. You can also add a minor if you know that you're going to have a minor. I'm going to go ahead and say other in this case. Will you plan to attend a university outside of Hancock County? Is it in the state of Ohio? Excuse me. Are you going to be a full-time student or not? Okay. I'm just going to apologize right here. I have a tickle in my throat, as you can tell. So I apologize that I'm coughing a little bit through this. This section here is actually very important. There are a lot of different scholarships that have very specific requirements. Please read through each of these very carefully. and choose as many of these as are applicable to you. This next section is about your letter of recommendation. There is one letter of recommendation that is going to go with every single application, every single scholarship, and it is this one right here.
While Andrea works on typing in some of the information, again, like I just want to remind everyone to double check that email address before you send it. And if you're a Findlay student, use the full findlaycityschools.org. Something that we recommend everyone to consider before you send this email to any teacher, any guidance counselor. Think about the teachers who know you best, who have maybe worked with you on something closely related to what you're going to major in college, or an extracurricular, a boss. Kind of the few groups that we think of are a close teacher, a mentor, coach, employer, religious leader, and make note just to remind yourself of who you are sending that to. That way, if one of the scholarships that you qualify for requires a second or even a third letter of recommendation, you don't accidentally send it to the same person twice. So make note of that. And make sure you give the person that you're sending it to a heads up before you send it. That way they can keep an eye on their spam folders, their junk folders, and their email, and are ready to prepare that for you.
Yes, that's wonderful. So you'll see here that it shows that the email was sent. And that's just great for you to know that it actually went out. This essay here is also an essay that is going to be included in every single one of your scholarship applications. It's a very basic essay, 300 words or less, but please take your time, thoughtfully and completely answer it. I will tell you, our evaluators read these essays. This is very important. Many of the students that our evaluators see for a scholarship all qualify with the basic qualifications.
Andrea, before we talk a little bit more about the essay, I had a question related to student activities, which is a little bit higher in the application. Do activities only apply to high school or junior high as well? And the example that the student used was if they were in student government in middle school, should that be included, or is it strictly high school activity?
That's a great question. So we are looking for high school activity. So like I said, this essay is going to go with every single one of your scholarships. Please take your time and answer it thoroughly and thoughtfully. And then once you get to here, read through this. When you hit submit, you're going to see a confirmation page with a list of scholarship opportunities, and then a list that you're going to need to complete additional information. So that's what we're going to go ahead and show you here in just a second. Oh, I guess I'm actually Sally's student tonight. Before I hit submit, are there any other application questions? Let me hold just a second.
None that have come in so far. Again, I'll throw my 2 cents in as a reviewer for that essay portion. I've been reading scholarships for 7 or 8 years now, and I will say that there have been several occasions where we have a handful of very qualified students, and the decision has come down to both the quality of the letters of recommendation as well as the quality of your essays. So take some time to think about that essay prompt describing your future goals, how you plan to achieve those goals, and be thoughtful and be very thorough as far as proofreading, as far as grammar, things like that. Let's see, we did have a question come in. Would competitive high school marching band count as an athletic activity? That's a really good question, Andrea. Did you catch that, the end of that?
I did. So competitive marching band as athletic activity, typically what we're looking for are varsity athletic that are recognized by the Ohio High School OHSAA. Now, the marching band would absolutely count as a club, an organization, or an activity. But as far as the sports that are recognized by the Ohio Athletic Association, that would not necessarily count as that.
Right. We see band, even marching band, fall more into the arts category. And we had a second question come in. What is the most common mistake or error in filling out the common application? Which is another great question. We talked a little bit about errors related to essays, letters of recommendation not being completed because of email addresses. Thankfully, the universal application, the way it's set up, when Andrea hits submit, if she forgot a required field, it will tell you that. So that helps mitigate some of the errors that you might see. Andrea, do you have any other thoughts on some of the common errors?
Yeah, truly, as far as the application is concerned, it's not taking your time to read through it in a way that is thorough and answering all the questions in a thorough manner.
Yes, that's a really good point. And I think that's part of the reason that we open this application as early as we do, to give students 2 full months to spend time on this. It would not benefit you to start this the day before the day of when it's due. Hopefully take some time over Christmas break that's coming up to at least prepare the materials from the link that I shared earlier, the information needed to apply link. Start thinking about all of the activities you've been in, how long that they've been in.
Yep.
A couple more questions that have come in. Is there any way to send multiple letters of recommendation from the very beginning?
There's not. In fact, if you put an email address in and send that email, and then you go in and delete that email address and send another one, the first person will be locked out. They won't be able to submit. So it's very important to only submit one for that area. Now, once we move on to this next section, which I would say is actually the number one error, the next section that we're going to look at is the number one error that students do, in that they ignore the additional information that needs to be submitted. Once we get to this next section, you'll notice that there are other letters of recommendation that might be required. So this first one in this first portion is really a letter of recommendation that your student would want to go with every single scholarship application with the Community Foundation. Think about that thoroughly and who you want to request that from. But you can only request one, because if you request another one through this application, it's going to lock the first person out.
And there are quite a few that require a second or a third letter, supplemental information, which we'll talk about in just a second. But one final question before we move on to the second portion. Can sports that are not OSHA sports be included? For example, indoor track is an OATCCC sport and not an OSHA sport. Good question.
Yeah, that is a really good question. So again, you'll notice that those sports questions up there are very much, are they earning a varsity letter based? So think of it in that way. So indoor track is important and a lot of people do that. Ice skating is another example. A lot of people are involved in ice skating. Dance might be another example. Include all of that in your activities that you're doing for sure. We want to know that your student is doing those things. For the most part, the sports that we're looking for are the high school varsity letter ability sports.
Okay, I think that's all the questions we have now. So we will go ahead to the next session, which is submitting the application and the follow-up materials.
All right, we're submitting. Might take a second. You all are submitting and trying to qualify for 140 scholarships, so we're going to be patient. So essentially what the system is doing is literally looking at every single answer, pairing your student or you, if you are the student, with the scholarships that you might qualify for. I will be honest, I didn't think that it would take this long though. So while it's waiting, essentially what's going to happen is you're going to see a list. This page will only come up one time. If you have your phone with you, take a screenshot maybe of it. All of the information is going to be available in your dashboard, but this confirmation page that you see now says your application has been submitted. Based on your answers, you're eligible for the following. This screen you will only see at this moment. So I was ridiculous. You saw that. I answered just kind of every question and put everything in, and I qualified for a lot of scholarships by doing that. This is important right here. We will ask for supplemental information for the following scholarships. Look at that list of scholarships that we're going to ask for supplemental information on. It's a lot. It could be another essay. It could be another letter of recommendation. So there's a couple things you can do here. Chances are you've taken a good amount of time and you've filled out this application, and you might be tired at this moment and you might not want to do any of this supplemental information right now. That's fine. You don't have to. You could just hit the home button here and then you would be taken to your home screen, and I'll show you that in just a second. But let's say you're motivated and you're like, all right, you know what? I'm going to knock this out on this Saturday and we're just going to do this. If you hit continue, this is step 2. So this would be what I would say is one of the biggest errors, that students just don't do this part. I'm going to hit continue. And then it's basically going to walk me through each of those scholarships that needs additional information one by one. So this one's, I don't know why it's not letting me highlight there properly, sorry. This one is the April Rhoda Heifer Burback Scholarship. This one is asking for an additional essay right here. And it's asking for an additional letter of recommendation, specifically from a soccer coach that has coached you within the last 4 years. So let's say we go ahead and do our essay. I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick. I'm going to compose my email. Obviously, yours is going to be much more eloquent, and your person is already going to know that you've requested that letter of recommendation, like Jenna suggested. And then you can see I've done my essay. I've done my letter of recommendation. Now I can go ahead and submit this application. And I have just completed step 2 of the April Burback Scholarship. If I do that, it's going to take me right on into the Benjamin R.L. Lunn Merit Scholarship. And the same exact thing is here. Looks like this one requires an essay. I type my essay in there. I hit submit. it's going to take me to the next one. I was hoping it would take me to this one actually, because I want to show you this specifically. So there's one letter of recommendation that I said goes to every single scholarship that you already did in step one. There is a second kind of general letter of recommendation that could be required for multiple scholarships that your student has qualified for. All of these scholarships require one more just general letter of recommendation. So when you get to this one here, it's called second general letter of recommendation. You actually only need to request this letter of recommendation one time. So please read through this specifically and very carefully here. I'm happy to answer questions about this as you get to this in your application as well. Just send me an email and I'm happy to help you through that. Now, let's say that you're like, you know what, I'm not going to go through all 15 of those tonight. I don't have time. I don't want to do it. I want to take my time, whatever the case may be. If you hit this home button up here, it's going to take you to your dashboard. And now you can see all of these scholarships that you have qualified for. They're all kind of nested underneath the Findlay-Hancock County Community Foundation Universal application. So if I close that, see how they all go away. But if I open that back up, look at all of these scholarships that I have qualified for right here. How do you know which of these scholarships are requiring additional information? Well, if you look at this first one, do you see where it says application submitted? And then it says view application. Now let's compare that to the younger family scholarship where it says that it's assigned, but it still has a due date and you can still edit your application. The ones that are assigned with the due date and edit application, you have additional stuff to do. The ones that are submitted, no due date listed, and it just says view application, you have done everything that you need to do for that scholarship. So 2 days later, you log in to our system, you want to start working on stuff again, you go to that homepage, just scroll down and look for every single one of these that still has a due by and hit edit beside them. And it's going to take you to these additional requirements here.
And just to reiterate, those additional requirements are dependent on the scholarships that you qualify for. So if you qualify for 20 scholarships, 10 of them might require additional information. That's why we encourage you to start early and just plug away at it little by little. We did have a question that came in that asked, do I have to do the application in one sitting? No, you do not. You can save it as a draft at any point and return to it, so long as you save your username and password, which we know you will. And that's the same with all of these supplemental materials. You can return to these at any point, just note the due dates and give yourselves time.
Yes. So if you choose at any moment the save application right here, then you will still be able to go back in and edit, even in the step one universal application. You can go in, start on it, save at the bottom, then you can go back in, choose edit the application, keep going, save. You can do that as many times as you'd like to do until you finally hit this submit application button. And like Jenna said, it's the same for all of these additional requirements as well. So here, you know, if you're not quite ready to do this portion of everything, you can just hit save. And then you can just go back to the home page and that's totally fine. Okay, so any other questions? At this point, we have walked through step one in depth. Now you've seen step two, how to kind of access everything, to know whether or not you have additional items due with this whole assigned due by edit application. What other questions do you have? We have about 5 minutes left.
Okay, a question came in. Are the scholarships available through the Community Foundation only available through the Community Foundation site? Or can you apply outside of the Community Foundation site?
So the Community Foundation scholarships are only available through our scholarship portal. They're not available outside of the Community Foundation's scholarship portal. I hope, did that answer your question?
Yeah, please let us know if you have an additional question. I did just drop a link in the chat that takes you to like the page on our website where you can access the portal, start an application, things like that. But let us know if that answered it. Another question came in. How do you know when you have been awarded a scholarship? Good question.
Great question. So let's just talk timeline for just a second. So right now you're applying. February 1st, student applications, including step 1 and step 2, are due. February 15th, transcripts and letters of recommendation are due. In the meantime, we are going to be processing all of these applications. Our evaluators are going to be evaluating March 1st through March 31st, and we will be making decisions in April and early May. And students will be notified during their high school awards ceremony that they have received a scholarship or not. So that's where you can look for it. Once you're notified at your high school awards ceremony, then basically the next day you're going to get an email from us that is going to have a link to go back into this scholarship portal, and you'll be able to accept your scholarships through the scholarship portal. It's an online form, an acceptance form that you fill out. Once we receive that acceptance form, we process this on our end, and that scholarship is then sent to you directly to your school. It's not sent to you as an individual, it's sent to the trade school, college, or university that you will be attending. And we try to get those checks out to and in the hands of schools no later than mid to late July.
Okay, a couple more questions. If you play a varsity sport for 4 years, that was a club sport for the first 2 years of high school, do you count all 4 or just the 2? And I think this probably depends on the sport. Some of our scholarships have requirements that you must have qualified for a varsity letter your senior year, for 2 of your 4 years, things like that. I think this is probably a good one to go ahead and send Andrea an email about. Yes. with some more detail. We can help you out there, and I will drop her contact information in the chat. Next question, is there a limit to how many scholarships you can earn, and can more than one person earn the same scholarship?
Good question. So there is not a limit to the number of scholarships one student can earn. We have students that receive multiple scholarships all of the time. And then the second portion of that question again.
Can more than one student earn the same scholarship?
Oh, okay. So sometimes, yes. So it kind of depends on the size of the scholarship fund and how much available money we have to give out for the scholarship. But yes, there are times like Laura Weiss-Bergdorfer, just off the top of my head, is a scholarship that generally awards 7 $1,000 scholarships. So 7 students receive a $1,000 scholarship for that.
Yep, just depends on the scholarship.
And then others, it's one $500 scholarship, and that is what is available with that fund.
Next question, are only Findlay-Hancock County students qualified to apply for these scholarships?
Okay, so that's a great question as well. In this universal application, we also have like the Cooper Tire and the Roy V. Arms scholarship that's in there. There are some scholarships that are specific to Bluffton and Allen County that are in the universal application. Gosh, I'm trying to think. So mostly Hancock County students are the ones that are going to be qualifying for those that are in the universal application. But there are definitely other scholarships that are in the universal application that are nationwide, and also just kind of a little bit broader outside of Hancock County in the surrounding counties. We do have some scholarships that are for high schools that are out of state, actually. You'll notice those listed on the portal, and it will specifically say what school that scholarship is for. Please do not apply to those scholarships. You will not qualify.
And you can also find information about that on one of the links I sent is the scholarship listing for 2023. That has kind of some columns where you can see what the criteria look like. But there are a handful for those outside of Hancock County. And currently our last question, if you have one, drop it in now. How do you update your application once you decide what college you are going to after the application has been submitted?
Okay, so if you have chosen 3 or 4 different colleges that you've listed there, it's actually generally okay if you don't know which university you're going to be attending right when you submit that application. The only ones that it's going to make a big difference, there was that one question that I showed you that had like Bowling Green State University, Ohio State University, very specific universities. If you are choosing to attend one of those universities and you submitted your application and you didn't check that box, please let me know as soon as possible. If you are, chose those boxes and then all of a sudden you are deciding that you're not attending that university, just let me know as well via email. I can get in and I can edit after a scholarship is submitted, but I will only be able to edit until about February 1st, essentially. If it's a scholarship that is not college specific. So if it's really just a scholarship that is for a student that can go to any university and you put your first choice and second choice in there and they happen to flip flop, that's okay. If you're awarded a scholarship in that acceptance agreement that I talked about, you'll be required to fill in the university that you're attending, your student ID, so that the funds can be applied to your account and everything. So there's really only a few colleges that it's important for us to know that you're going to or not going to, just because we have specific scholarships for those colleges. Other than that, it's okay. It doesn't matter one way or the other, and you would give us that specific information once you accept the scholarship.
Okay, and this will be our last question of the evening since we are already a couple minutes over. So thank you for hanging on with us. Are scholarships a one-time award or are they awarded every year while you're enrolled in college? And Andrea can talk a little bit more about this, but the long and the short of it is it depends.
That's exactly right. So some of our scholarships are renewable. And what that means is that you would be awarded the scholarship for the first time in 2023. And then depending on the way the scholarship fund is set up, it could be renewable for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. When you get that, when you get your certificate at the award ceremony, there will be a letter with that certificate that will outline how you get online and take a look at your acceptance agreement. And in that acceptance agreement, it is going to say, this is a $1,000 scholarship. It is renewable for 3 years. It's going to spell all of that out for you. The other thing is in that list that Jenna, indicated is on our website, that it also can indicate on there which scholarships are renewable. So you'll know which of our scholarships are generally renewable and which are one time.
I lied. We did have one more question. You can see Andrea's contact while I'm answering. I'll just answer this aloud. When is the award ceremony? Is the date known yet? That depends on the school. These are your high school's award ceremonies, not a community foundation award ceremony. They tend to be in May, but contact your guidance counselor or principal, whoever arranges those, for more information. And I will let Andrea go ahead and close us out.
Okay. Yes, that's exactly right. So thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you for being willing to participate and apply to these scholarships. Our donors want to support you. They want to support the students in our community, and you have worked hard at high school. So please get in there, fill this application out. You see my contact information here. Send me an email, give me a call. I'm happy to answer questions that you might have as you go through this process. Like I said before, you're going to receive an email with a recording of this webinar tomorrow or over the weekend or at the beginning of next week. It's also going to be available on our scholarship resources webpage at community-foundation.com. And we wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much.